What's one of the biggest challenges for any high school English teacher today? It's getting a teenager to look up from their phone and really dig into some heavy questions, about justice, race, and identity. It's tough. So today, we're going to deconstruct a really cool teaching unit for the novel Monster that's designed to do exactly that. So here's how we'll break it down. First, we'll look at the challenge teachers are facing. Then, we'll introduce the Monster unit itself. We're going to dive into how it's designed for real learning, see how it lines up with curriculum goals, and then get to the heart of it all, the mission to humanize. All right, so let's start with the problem. For any grade 9 or 10 English class, the big question is, how do you get past just talking about the plot? How do you really push students to think about their own ideas on fairness, on bias, and what it even means to be human when they're reading a novel? Yeah, this really gets to the core of it. We're not just aiming for kids to understand what they read, we're talking about a genuine personal connection. The whole idea is to make these gritty, difficult themes feel real and important, not just like another homework assignment. And this question from a review of the novel Monster just cuts right to the chase, doesn't it? It lays out the kind of uncomfortable but absolutely essential territory that this book asks young readers to explore. And that brings us to the solution this unit proposes, a deep, thoughtful dive into Walter Dean Meyer's incredible novel, Monster. If you don't know it, Monster is a really important piece of young adult literature. And its author, the late, great Walter Dean Myers, he was a true pioneer. He was totally dedicated to writing authentic stories about characters and communities that, for a long time, just weren't being seen in books. So why this book specifically? Well, it's got this perfect storm of features that make it fantastic for the classroom. First, it's written as a screenplay, which feels super immediate and cinematic. It's also a huge award winner. It won the very first Michael L. Prince Award. But most importantly, it dives headfirst into these big themes of justice, identity, and moral ambiguity that feel more relevant right now than ever before. Okay, now we get to the real engine of this whole thing. What makes this teaching unit so effective isn't just the book itself. It's how it's taught. It's all about the structure, which is designed to measure and deepen understanding every single step of the way. The whole unit is built on a simple but super powerful concept: short learning cycles. So forget about that one big, scary test at the very end. With this method, the book is broken into these manageable chunks, and there are frequent check-ins to make sure no student is getting left behind. The process is this really clear, repeatable loop. Students read a section of the book, they take a short quiz, and then the teacher can immediately see who's getting it and who might need a little help. It's a brilliant way to keep the whole class on track before you even think about moving on. So here's what it looks like in practice. The first cycle ends after about 50 pages. Boom. A quick quiz. It's just a snapshot of their comprehension. Then everyone reads on to page 110 for the next checkpoint. See the pattern? And this just keeps going right through the book. It gives the teacher so many chances to catch any misunderstandings before they turn into bigger problems down the road. And those little quizzes, they're for way more than just a grade. The data they give the teacher is the key to what educators call targeted interventions. This basically means the teacher can stop just talking to the whole class and instead give specific, focused help right where an individual student needs it most. Now, this is the really clever part. The quiz questions are actually coded with these little icons. The eye icon means the question is about finding details right there in the text. The brain is for figuring out what the text implies, and the chain link is for making those deeper connections. So if a student keeps missing the brain questions, the teacher knows exactly what to work on with them. Inference skills. It's incredibly precise, data-driven teaching. Of course, all this cool, innovative teaching has to actually meet the official standards, right? Well, this unit was meticulously designed to align up perfectly with Ontario's grade 9 and 10 English curriculum expectations. And here's exactly how it connects. When students analyze that screenplay format, they're directly hitting the understanding form and style standard. When they write a news report based on the story, they're practicing writing in different forms. You can see that every single activity is purposefully mapped to a specific curriculum requirement. It's all there for a reason. So finally, let's talk about what I think is the most important piece of all of this, the mission. What's the deeper purpose that's driving not just the novel, but this entire way of teaching it? This is a quote from the author himself, Walter Dean Myers. He tells the story about a lawyer who told him that his main job in a courtroom wasn't about the evidence. It was about
humanizing his client for the jury. And Myers really took that to heart. He saw his job as a writer as a way to humanize young people, especially kids of color from neighborhoods like Harlem where he grew up, by making sure their lives, their families, their problems were right there in the books they read.
So when you get right down to it, this whole unit isn't just about learning literary devices or passing a test. It's about carrying on that mission. It's about building empathy by asking students to walk in someone else's shoes. And it's about building self-worth by showing every single student that their reality, their life, is worthy of being in a story. And that really leaves us with this final thought to chew on. What actually happens? What changes in a classroom, and maybe even in the world, when every single student can pick up a book and truly see themselves, their communities, and their struggles reflected on the page? That's the power of a novel like Monster, and a teaching unit smart enough to unlock it.